evening, everyone. It's good to see that we are maintaining our tradition of standing room only every year. This is wonderful. I'm going to say a few words about tonight's performance, but before I do, Jennifer asked me to take care of a few housekeeping issues. So first of all, as always, please turn off or silence your cell phones, because your ringtones are probably not in the same key as the Haydn Mass we're going to see. Second, if you need a restroom, they're right back through that opening, both ladies and gentlemen. And finally, if you look at the back of the room in the corner, you will see Mrs. Cooper. Wave to her. She's back there waiting for you to come back after the concert, hoping to make wine and snacks great again. However, we cleverly put a donation basket next to the wine. So if you are so moved afterwards to make a donation for this production, this is a very expensive affair, as you can imagine. We have to buy scores for the choir and parts for the instrumentalists and pay the musicians and a host of other expenses as well. So if you can contribute something afterwards, we would be very grateful. There's also, or supposed to be, some QR codes posted here and there. If you do not have cash and you want to contribute, you can use your cell phone. If you're low-tech like me, you use cash. Oh, there we go. Jeanette has the QR code. I think that was it, right, for housekeeping? Okay, so on behalf of our esteemed director, Mrs. Jennifer Beck, and the Assumption Community Choir and Orchestra, I welcome you to our 10th annual performance of the Masterworks of Sacred Choral Literature. As many of you know, Jennifer and Vincent Beck formed this choir in 2016 for the purpose of introducing parishioners, young and old, as well as the surrounding community, to the beauty and the discipline of performing sacred choral music. Over the past 10 years, this choir has undertaken some very ambitious projects, such as the Mozart Requiem, Handel's Messiah, Vivaldi's Gloria, Palestrina's Pope Marcellus Mass, and the Bach Magnificat. This year we perform another ambitious project, perhaps the most ambitious of all, Haydn's Lord Nelson Mass, one of the most glorious settings of the Mass, in my opinion, ever composed. It may surprise some that I've described this Mass as one of its most glorious settings because Haydn, Franz Joseph Haydn, is not that well-known a composer beyond the world of classical musicians and connoisseurs, and so neither is this Mass. Why is that? Well, it seems that Haydn, despite his universal fame during his lifetime and his remarkable and enormous achievements, was eventually overshadowed by two of his contemporary peers in Vienna, Mozart and Beethoven. And yet, Mozart and Beethoven's success rested squarely on Haydn's shoulders, because Haydn developed and perfected the style that they all used, the so-called classical style. It was that style that earned him the reputation as the father of the symphony, and he wrote 104 of them, and the father of the string quartet, in which he wrote almost 70. He also wrote concertos, piano sonatas, piano trios, and 8 operas, among many other things. I'd like to give you some general information about Haydn and then talk a little bit about some of the features of this Mass. Haydn was born in 1732 to a humble and devout Catholic family in Austria, and he remained very devout for his entire life. He began every composition with prayer, and as a special sign of his devotion to God, he wrote at the top of each of his music scores, In Nomine Domini. His youthful talents at singing, playing the organ, violin, and harpsichord led him at first to try his luck as a freelance musician. But it was when he began composing that he attracted the attention of certain aristocratic patrons. In 1761, already a successful composer, he was hired by an immensely wealthy Hungarian family named Esterházy to be their court Kapellmeister. Kapellmeister literally means master of the keyboard, but in terms of actual duties, Haydn was the music director. In this position, Haydn was really no more than a servant who even had to wear a servant's uniform. But this humble servant was to change the course of Western classical music over the next 30 years of his employment. The Esterházys had high expectations of their servant and assigned him many responsibilities, including composing, directing the orchestra, playing chamber music for and with his patrons, and putting on operas. However, they provided him with their wealth of resources, including his very own in-house orchestra and opera theater. Starting in 1779, his employer, Prince Esterházy, allowed him to sell his compositions to publishers. And by 1791, when he was invited to London, Haydn had become Europe's most celebrated composer, even though he was largely confined to remote Esterházy castles in Hungary. Here is how Haydn described the advantages given to him by the Esterházy family. As a conductor of an orchestra, I can make experiments, observe what produced an effect and what weakened it, and was thus in a position to improve, alter, make additions or omissions, and be as bold as I please. I was cut off from the world. There was no one to confuse or torment me, and I was forced to become original. In 1781, a major influence appeared in Haydn's life. He met Mozart in Vienna. They became very close friends, learned from each other, and even played in a string quartet together. From Mozart, Haydn learned, among other things, harmonic depth and subtlety, melodic elegance, and rhythmic stability. From Haydn, Mozart learned formal and thematic development and how to write string quartets. They each had nothing but the highest sincere praise for each other. Here is what Haydn, with his typical humility, said to Mozart's father in 1785, after they had played through a new set of Mozart string quartets. I tell you before God and as an honest man, that your son is the greatest composer known to me, either in person or by reputation. He has taste, and what is more, the most profound knowledge of composition. It was after the death of Prince Esterházy in 1791 that Haydn, now freed from being a servant, wrote his greatest masterworks, the 12 London symphonies, composed during 2 visits to London, the Opus 76 string quartets, among which is a slow movement that not only became the national hymn of Austria, but also the Catholic hymn, Glorious Things of Thee Are Spoken. He wrote 2 oratorios, The Creation and the Seasons, and 6 masses. The mass we are performing tonight is the greatest of those 6 late masses. The correct title of the Lord Nelson Mass, written in 1798, is actually Missa in Angustiis, which is correctly printed on your program. In other words, Mass in times of anguish. The anguish refers to the Napoleonic Wars, which were at that time ravaging Europe and threatening the Holy Roman Empire. While all of Europe wondered whether Napoleon could be stopped, he was finally defeated at the famous Battle of the Nile, just off the coast of Egypt, in which the British Navy under Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson defeated the Navy of the French Republic. The news of Lord Nelson's victory arrived in Vienna just before the first performance of this Mass, and so it became known popularly thereafter as the Lord Nelson Mass. The Mass was so famous that Lord Nelson himself visited Haydn 2 years later and offered him a gold watch in exchange for the pen that Haydn had used to compose it. The music itself constantly alternates between anguish and radiant and jubilant hope, expressed by the contrast between minor and major modes and keys, between the soloist and chorus, and between slow and fast tempi. It begins with a dark, intensely ominous Kyrie in the key of D minor, the same key as Mozart's Requiem. The soprano soloist joins the chorus during the Kyrie's cries of anguish, but the Christe Eleison gives her an elegant, reassuring solo in the major mode. The respite, however, is short-lived, as the ominous character of the Kyrie returns with a motif that evokes the dark clouds of war. Devout Catholic that he was, Haydn does not succumb to these dark clouds, because next comes the Gloria, back in the major mode, also in 3 sections, full of sublime exuberance and joy. But even the Gloria has some dark overtones at the Laudamus Te with its jarring syncopations in the orchestra. At the Quitoles, a slow section for bass solo and chorus, Haydn pays homage to his dear departed friend Mozart by quoting the trombone solo from the Tuba Mirum from the Requiem, Mozart Requiem, interspersed with the solemn chant-like unison passages for the choir, creating a haunting effect of beseeching the Almighty for forgiveness. The Gloria ends as it began with a corneum two solos, once again full of exuberant joy. The Credo is also divided into 3 sections. It is the most artistically sophisticated movement. The first section evokes the church militant with a very robust march-like canon between pairs of voices. If you don't know what a canon is, it's basically a sophisticated form of a round, such as row, row, row your boat. And I won't make you split up and sing the parts, don't worry. So each canonical entry begins with the sopranos paired with the tenors, followed by the altos paired with the basses. The second section, the Et Incarnatus Est, features the soprano solo, joined by the chorus in a slow movement that is the most tenderly heart-rending section of the whole Mass, evoking through music not only the purity and tenderness of the Blessed Virgin, but also her sorrowful heart. The final section, the Et Resurrexit, renews the vigor of the opening with some truly symphonic, thematic development. The Sanctus begins with slow, hushed, majestic solemnity, but quickly erupts into a jubilant pleni sunt caeli. But suddenly switching back to minor, Haydn delivers a truly mysterious Benedictus, alternating between a haunting soprano solo and a strident chorus with trumpet, full orchestra and timpani, as if to remind us of the dark Napoleonic clouds on the horizon. Or even perhaps of St. Simeon's prophecy, which in part reads, "This child is a sign which shall be contradicted." But the jubilant major mode, along with a fast tempo, returns at the Hosanna in Excelsis. Finally, the Agnus Dei begins slowly and quietly with 4 soloists in the same key as the Et Incarnatus Est. But this reverent meditation gives way to the Dona Nobis Pacem for full chorus, possibly the most triumphant of all the movements. In closing, I will return to the humbly Catholic character of Haydn, who, despite his fame throughout Europe, once said of himself, "I have mingled with emperors, kings, and many a great personage, and have been told by them quite a few flattering things. For all that, I do not care to be on intimate terms with such persons and prefer to keep them up to people of my own station." So said the son of a wheelwright, who devoted his talents to uplifting the spirits of common humanity and glorifying God, who remained a kind, simple man, whose eyes, according to one of his biographers, beamed with benevolence, and whom Mozart, Beethoven, and all of Europe knew as Papa Haydn. So tonight we bring you the magnificent, inexhaustible Catholic spirit of Papa Haydn, which you'll receive from the voices and hands of Jennifer Beck and the Assumption Community Choir and Orchestra. May God bless you all, and thank you for coming.
I just have a couple of quick words. The first is a reminder, don't forget to give donations so that we can help pay for all this. But we do have some people, bring it out here. We have some people we need to thank tonight, that this wouldn't be possible without many people, but there's a few, of course, that we want to thank in particular. And of course, we want to start, if the girls come out with the gifts. Okay, we're going to start with Maria Bales. Productions on if we didn't have soloists, and Maria's always our soprano or our alto, depends. She's a mezzo, she can do both tonight. And we just love to hear her sing. And the next, of course, is Vincent Beck. Next is our accompanist, John Ingram. He comes and joins us every Wednesday without fail. He is always playing for us and is very patient with us, and he is amazing. He can play either the piano or what we're all singing, which if you sing choral music, you know, is on 4 different bars, and he's playing it all and keeping us on where we need to be, and he is amazing. And thank you, John. We save the best for last because it's certainly not least, is Mrs. Jennifer Beck has been organizing this for these past 10 seasons. I've been with her singing since the first season way back when. There's a few of us that have been. Raise your hand if you've been here all 10 seasons. There's a few of us. Not many. It changes a lot. But Jennifer puts a lot of hours into this and a lot of her own money into this, always supplying drinks and treats for the singers to convince us to come on Wednesdays, especially the other ones. Right. And she picks these, the amount of hours she puts into just picking the piece alone. And then, I don't know if you notice the difference in tempos. We're going very slow, and a second later, she's got to go really, really fast. And to keep that in her head is truly amazing to all of us. We watch her and say, great! Because we can count on her and trust her and know she's going to cue us and we need to cue us in. And we just thank her for all her time and effort. Thank you, Jennifer.
Haydn. 3 cheers for Mrs. Beck and the community choir. 3 hats, but no phones. Few smiles. Would you like to give a donation? Just fill our hats.
I also just wanted to say thank you all for coming. It is a big part of the production for us to have somebody to sing to as well. So we really appreciate you coming out to come see us perform. And I also want to give a big round of applause as well, again, for the orchestra. They get one practice. We practice from October until tonight, okay? And they come yesterday, and we put it all together in one rehearsal. They're amazing. I also wanted to say thank you to the mothers for allowing us to use their beautiful space for us to be able to have our concert.